Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Pain, Heart and Home Healing After Loss. I am so excited for this episode today because the guest that I have on is somebody that I have been wanting to have on for so long. She's a woman that I have been following on social media for several years now and has just been, she just inspires me so much on a daily basis and has had a huge part in why I even felt confident enough to start posting about anything home related. And you know, when I had first started my account, and so her 500,000 followers on Instagram know her as the Confident Mom. Her name is Susan Heid. Susan, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today.
Yes. Well, it took us a few times, right? To
It
find
did.
a date that would work. But
Yes.
finally, right, we are
Yes.
here and we get to have
Well,
a great conversation.
Yes, and I'm so excited. I know our first meeting was scheduled. Well, I didn't know it was scheduled during the first trimester of my pregnancy, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this right now. I'm like, and I was so bummed to have to cancel. It was you and a couple other people that I was really excited to have, and I'm like, oh no, like I finally got her, and now I have to cancel.
Oh no.
But
I'm not that hot of a commodity, so you're good. You're good.
we made it work, and I'm so excited because I know that our listeners are just gonna eat everything up that you have to offer. So what I want to get started by saying is there are so many accounts out there on the internet nowadays that offer, you know, things like cleaning tips and tricks and even time lapses of people just cleaning out their fridge or whatever the heck they're doing, you know, cooking and all of these things home related. And so there's no lack of practical help on the internet nowadays. There's plenty of advice and lots of things out there as far as like home maintenance goes. However, the difference between a lot of those accounts and your account, Susan, is yes, you do offer lots of practical how-tos and helpful tips, products, things you use in your home on a daily basis. But the difference between those accounts and your account, in my opinion, is you're not just showing people how to like muscle through these terrible tasks that we have to deal with and they're such an inconvenience, but you know, I guess I'll show you the easiest way to do them. But what your account does is it really shows the beauty behind homemaking and all of the things that homemaking entails. And so you show us, number one, it's really a lot more simple than people, you know, make it out to be. And I preach that all the time. Like, it's really not that complicated. But two, you show people that being a homemaker is, which includes things, yes, like cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, all of those things. But it also includes embracing the role of being a caretaker of not only the physical space in our home, but the people inside of it too. And, you know, because being a homemaker is such a sacred role that I think a lot of women in particular don't even realize that has been bestowed upon them. And you really showcase how beautiful of a role it is. And how fulfilling it is once you decide to embrace it rather than fighting it every day, which I think a lot of women, especially in America, do. And the thing I want to focus on most today, what I want to like kind of direct our conversation towards is talking about how the impact of our homes has on our whatever healing journey that we're on, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, because I think it's safe to say that whether we've realized it or not, every single person in some area of their life could use some healing. Yeah. Whether it's relationships, like I said, physical issues, like whatever that is. And so much healing can and will be done within our home. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, everything we're pursuing in life starts at the home, in my opinion. And so the environment that we're living in, our homes, has a huge impact on all of this. And so I think now I want to let you talk. I'm sorry for rambling, but I just want to kind of set.
Great. I love this.
I want to set the stage because you and I could probably sit here and talk about a million things homemaking, but this is what I kind of want to hone in on, because I think this is where people are missing the point, that it's not just about the practical how-tos and it's not just about the recipes, even though those things are great. What I want to focus on is one of the things I love that you display on your account, is this term that you have come up with, coined, whatever you want to say, is chaos to calm. And you say that a lot on your account. And I want to talk about that because I want to know, one, where did that term come from? And why is it one of your go-to phrases? I would imagine it has to tie into your personal life somehow. So just kind of give our listeners, like, where did that term come from? Why is it so important to you and how you live your life?
Well, actually, it may have actually started from, my own life. So part of my story is I was married, then I was divorced and a single mom for 8 years, and then remarried now, and blended a family and been married 18 years. So obviously during those seasons, there were chaos at different times. But it actually really resonated. And, for me to understand the direction that I wanted to go and the passion that I had behind helping women in the home started when I left my job as a flight attendant. That was 17 years ago. And I wanted to do something where I was helping women. And I wasn't sure what that looked like, but I knew that I had some giftings in homemaking. But there wasn't anything I could get that was a credential, like, Susan, the homemaking coach. There was nothing like that. And so I went and got a parent coaching certification. It was an amazing experience. I learned so much. So then I started coaching moms mainly on issues with their parenting, right? They would come and say, my child is doing this and blah, 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 all of these things. But what happened during that season was that, yes, there may have been issues, right, with their child, displaying certain behaviors. But what it boiled down, I saw so many women, they had no routines. They had no rhythm. They had no idea what was for dinner. They were always scrambling to get out the door. When you have that kind of chaos, you are going to see behaviors in everybody that aren't your best. They're not desirable. And so that was really the light bulb moment, I think, for me to realize, parent coaching is great, but it was like superficial layer of trying to resolve something that was needed root cause, like surgery, right? So that's really where it came from. Like, we really have to dig in and establish some of these, and those terms are interchangeable all the time. It's routines, rhythms, and I feel like they get such a negative tone, like, oh, that sounds so boring. But really, it doesn't have to be boring. You just have to figure out what that routine or rhythm looks like for you and your family. But when women implement some of these things, it's literally life-changing, not only for them, but for your entire family. So anyway, so that's where that kind of came in. And it's kind of catchy, but it is true. It's short and simple.
That's so interesting. I knew most of what you had just shared about your story. I did not know that you started more in like the parenting, coaching, world. And so that's very interesting. But I love that point because you're right. Everything people don't realize, and this is what I want to talk about. So this is a great way to like just start by going, boom, there you have it. I bet you most of the people listening are parents, or moms. And so the fact that what is going on in our home and how we run and operate our homes has such an impact on every single area of our life is like the main message I try to get across to women is like, you think the last time you tidied up or cleaned your toilet has nothing to do with your children's behavior, but really, and from an outside perspective, or when you take a step back, like, okay, is your toilet clean? Like, that's not the most important thing in the world. But the point is when you don't have these rhythms and routines and these systems that you're talking about, everything in life feels chaotic because everything in life feels out of your control. And outside of your four walls of your home, there are a lot of things that are outside of our control. Mm-hmm. And things that we can't, no matter how hard we want to or how hard we try, we can't control what is happening. But most of the time, we have a lot more control over what is going on within our four walls and within our families that we don't even realize. Like, again, it's everybody, but it's specifically women, because for the majority of the time, these things fall on women. Most of them don't realize that if they would just figure out a system or routine, whatever that looks like for them, if they could just get that under control, and that it's not about perfection, but if they could just figure out what that is for them and then stick with it, that every area of their life would change. And I kind of just mentioned this, but you talk about this all the time about how building those rhythms and routines is not just about, okay, let me look up Susan's account. Now, yes, Susan's account has a lot of practical tips and tricks and all of these things, but the main purpose is find what works for you and then stick with it. Don't just Pinterest, what should I do exactly when and when, you know what I mean? Like, and so you talk a lot about that. And so why is it so important for women to find, not just to go on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever and find an exact cleaning list for the week or whatever, but to really develop their own system and routine for themselves?
Well, I mean, one, everybody's different. What brings me that sense of peace and where like, okay, I feel like I can get, move on with my day, or things got a little crazy and now, okay, I'm good. That for me, that's going to be different than it is for you, or, for 10 other people listening. And I don't like to, for example, I don't like to clean my home and spend an hour and do a room at a time. I have found just through working with other women that isn't, people don't have time allotted to that. I don't enjoy cleaning like that. I like short bursts. And so that's why I developed the plan that I did, because most anybody can find 5 minutes or 10 minutes to accomplish a task. But here's the problem is if you have to think about what, what needs to be done. I have 5 minutes. What do I do? Well, then you've wasted your 5 minutes because you have decision fatigue and you aren't sure what really needs to be done. Or maybe you just wipe the counters every single day because that's the first thing that comes to mind. And then other things get lost. And so I think, when you develop a routine. So whether even yesterday, this is a little bit off, but not really. I shared, part of my morning rhythm or my morning routine. It is pivotal to the success of my day. And so I just shared that. And, I get comments, oh, I wish I could do that, or I wish blah, 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 or I just can't, and I love to turn those comments, and we have discussion, in DM of, well, what can you do? Instead of figuring out like, well, I can't do even, on the planner that I have, there's tasks listed and people are like, well, I can't do all those every day. I don't even do those every single day. And I just say, well, what can you do? Is there one thing on that list that you can do? Is there one thing that you can put into practice? Because that is the only way habits actually develop and become a routine, right? Is developing one thing that you really don't have to think about all that much. That becomes a habit. And then that takes, just the anxiety, it takes the decision fatigue out. It's just an automatic, response, just like brushing your teeth. Do you really even think about like, oh, I wake up, oh, I got to go brush my teeth? No, you just do it. And so I find that, there's, gosh, this is like opening up everything. So I was shocked, shocked when my account blew up and I got so many comments over and over and over. No one ever taught me how to clean. I don't know how to do laundry. I don't know how to clean a toilet. I don't know any of this. And I was shocked. And so all that to say, when you, as the homemaker, it doesn't mean you have to do every single task in your home. That's not true. A homemaker is the manager of the home. So if you do not, in fact, we were talking about this inside my membership this month, if you do not teach your children to help and be a participant in your home, you are doing them a disservice. I saw that almost 2 years ago when comment after comment after comment of people not understanding, right? And so think about, right, what that rhythm or routine looks like for you or what you would like, okay? Dream about because that's the only way you're going to develop something is if you really, if you want to have a routine that's similar to mine, but maybe you don't have the time frame that I have, that's okay. What can you put into place? If you want to drink your coffee in peace for 15 minutes, but you have all of these other things going on, well, maybe you need to get up 15 minutes earlier than what you are, right? And so it's that back and forth. I kind of digressed into way over here into another thing, but anyway, so now I even forgot the question. So there you go.
No, everything you just these are all the things I want to talk about. So this is great. No, it was perfect. One of the things I want to just offer my practical tip that I started doing that was life changing. Because my mom always says to me, you know, I have all these things I want to do, and every single time I have some time, I never can, you know, think of what I want to do. And like you said, then you run into, well, you just wasted your 5 minutes,
Right.
you know, now you have decision fatigue because you can't figure out what to do. And so the thing that I started doing, it's so silly and it's so easy, is I literally have a notepad on my phone. And anytime I think of a little project that I want to get done, I just add it to the notepad. And then what I will do is if I have 15 or 20 minutes and I'm like, okay, I have 15 or 20 minutes and I have the energy to be productive, I pull out my notepad and I can easily check 1 to 3 things, depending on how big the task is, off that list. And yes, it's a revolving list. It's not like I completed my list forever and now it's done. Like, of course,
it's never
there's
be
always,
done, right?
it's never going to be done, but that's okay, because if our goal is to be productive and check them off, this is how we can save those 5 minutes or you know, savor those 5 minutes and actually get something done, rather than standing around going, I know I have stuff to do, but I can't remember what it is. So I literally just write it down and then I cross it off. Or what I'll do is I'll reserve a day for my to-do list. And so when that day comes up, I'll spend all day just checking off whatever's on my to-do list. And so, like you said, everybody's different. Everybody's schedule is different. And I want to talk about that because I'm sure there's a huge array of, you know, schedules and working moms versus stay-at-home moms and all of these things. And so figuring out, like you said, what you can do. If you only have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, okay, then how can we be the most productive, if that's your goal, in those 5 minutes? That's what works for me. And then the other thing that you touched on, which is absolutely huge, I don't talk about this as much anymore, just because I have a unique situation with the kids in my home. And so I try not to talk about it too much, but getting your kids involved is, you know, there's a certain age. I'm only used to 6-year-old and up. That is when I have 3 children in the home. They're not mine biologically, so I didn't raise them from diapers. And so I have experience with age 6 and up. And so when you're talking newborn, toddler, you know, those younger years, I don't have experience there. But the good thing is my experience starts at an age where these kids were perfectly capable of helping in some area, like in the house. Even if it was, you're going to organize the shoes and you're going to put the 2 shoes that match together or whatever it is. Or you're going to make sure that all of your laundry is in the laundry basket, unfolded, and the socks are apart, whatever that is, whatever helps, you know, mom stay sane.
Yep.
And so what I want to say about that is, like you said, get your kids involved. My kids are happier the more I involve them. They might not know it at first, but the more they feel like they're part of the team and the more that they feel like they're contributing to what's going on around here, it's more fulfilling to them. And they feel, I don't know if important is the word. They feel more,
they're a part of the team. They're an integral part of the team. They're not just consumers, they're contributors. And that is a huge thing that will intrinsically motivate your kids, that will go well beyond the, you know, whatever, replacing the toilet paper in your home, you know, whatever.
Yes.
It is something that you are wiring in their brain when you are able to do this in the home. It really is.
Definitely. And what I tried putting out there most of the time for moms who were like, you know, because this was my problem. I'm a little bit of a control freak, which I've mellowed out with that. But like the kids would want to help and I would be like, oh, but then I'm going to have to like do it anyways. So I might as well just do it. And then I wouldn't have them do it. So for those kinds of people who want the help, but feel like, well, I'm just going to have to do it anyways, I think there's this like stigma that you have to give kids very specific chores, or you have to give kids very specific tasks, like doing the dishes and whatever it is. For me, one thing that I'm picky about is the dishes, not the way that they're loaded in the dishwasher. That is actually one thing that I'm not picky about, which is funny because I'm picky about a lot of things. But the way that the dishes go in the dishwasher, I'm not picky about. But my point in what I'm saying is, if that's not something that takes a mental load off of me, it's not something I'm going to give to the kids to help. I what I found is so important is finding things that literally takes a mental load off of. So for me, it was teaching the kids how to do your own laundry. And at 7, 8, people might have looked at me funny and said, you make them do your laundry. Heck yes, because for two reasons. One, I'm a lot more sane because of it. And two, look, they're doing it. They're very capable. They're very capable kids. And so if they are able to do it, yeah, I'm going to give them that task. And that's what I figured out works for me, is figuring out what actually took a load off of me, not added to my stress. Like, oh, sure, you can help with dinner. Now I'm going to spend 2 hours instead of 1 hour cleaning up because the 5-year-old got junk everywhere. Now, I'm not saying there's not a time and place to let your kids help.
There's seasons. There are
of
seasons.
Course, there's seasons.
Yes.
But if what you're really trying to do is build these systems and routines that are helping mom increase her sanity, there are ways to involve your children and actually have them be helpful rather than just continue to add to your stress level, because that's the opposite of what we want.
Take the low-hanging fruit.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, the difference between, because like I said, excuse me, we probably have some moms that work 9 to 5 and some stay-at-home moms with littles, or stay-at-home moms whose kids go to school and they're home all day until they come, like lots of different schedules, family, dynamics. And I will say, obviously it's going to be, for someone like me, the season that I'm in right now, I'm pregnant and I'm almost in my 3rd trimester. So I'm not as active and not always as productive as I, am when I'm not pregnant. I have 3 other kids who are school age and they go to a public school currently. So they're out of the house for a majority of the day and then they're home in the evening. That's my current setup. But I have been in every single area of life. I've done the homeschooling during COVID, and so I was the primary person doing the schooling. For some of that, I worked out of the house, a lot of the days. And then I worked while they were at school. Now I'm home. So my point is I've done lots of different combinations of the working / kids at home, stay at home mom kind of thing. And what I've noticed for myself personally is I have never been more fulfilled than simply just, I hate saying just, but being a stay-at-home mom. Whether the kids are home during the summer, homeschooling, gone at school and home at night. And so what I want to talk about is how do we take all these tips and these building these systems and routines and rhythms and all of that and implement it in no matter what area or no matter what schedule of that your season of life looks like, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because for me, the most, what I want to tell women is quit your job, be a stay-at-home mom, and be a homemaker. Because for me, that's the most fulfilled that I've ever been. I understand it's not always an option, although I think it's more of an option than most women think it is.
Well, we can talk about that because it is, and let's touch on that for a second because I'll be the bad guy here.
All right, I'll let you be the bad guy.
Because so, and I, I've lived through many seasons too. Being a single mom, that's not a party or a rodeo. Like it's a rodeo actually, but but what I want to say here is, yes, there are so many different variations, but my passion and my belief and this is me and not everybody thinks the same, but everything, how I view my life and everything is from a biblical perspective. And God truly gave women a nurturing heart and spirit to care for the home. That is where the word homemaker even came from. And so one of the things that a myth that came out after my account blew up too was people were like, well, I'm not a homemaker because I work full time. I'm like, no, you are the homemaker. Just because if you go and if you read the Bible, you can look at the Proverbs 31 woman. It doesn't say that she doesn't contribute to her family's income. So it just looks different, right? And that season versus how it is now. But if you are working part-time, full-time, you are working in the home exclusively, homeschooling, all of that, I don't care. You are all homemakers. And so the minute that you have forgotten that, or maybe you just never really realized, once you really discover that that is truly the gift that you have to give your family, like there is something that will bring a joy that just comes from that. And like you said, like, I am so fulfilled that this is the season that I'm in, right? And it doesn't mean that I don't have goals, or, if you work outside of the home, you're bad, or you're not, giving to your family what they need. That's not it. And you know what? That's from the enemy, and he will like to divide all of that. So all I wanted to say with that is that there are different seasons for everybody, but the bottom line is you are the homemaker. And if you are not meeting the needs of your family, even working outside of the home full time, if you are not meeting some of the priorities that need to be done in the home, they are falling through the cracks, and that will contribute to the chaos. And so if you aren't able to balance working outside of the home and then providing those priorities for your family, then that's where you really have to kind of decide, what am I willing to give up, right? Maybe owning a home right now isn't in the cards, because you're willing to sacrifice that in order to work part-time, or maybe not work outside of the home at this point, right? Or, maybe it's a different, apartment that you need to rent, or maybe you go to one car. There's always choices that we make regarding our decision. And I just wanted to say that with heart. And so, yes, I'm in a different season, and, and people can say, well, it's easy for you to say that, Susan, because, look at your life. It looks so perfect and whatever. It always wasn't like this. So don't compare my story now, where I'm at here, 58 years old, to your story maybe as a 32 or a 38-year-old. Okay. So, but I would just want to empower you. Don't play a victim to your situation. Always look and find a way to make what you want to see happen. So, okay, off my soapbox.
No, perfectly said. And I'm so glad you said that, because that is a huge part of this topic that we're talking about. And I think it's a lot of women feeling victim to this. Well, I have to be working, and I have to be making a homemade dinner every single night, and I have to be taking my kids to their sports and activities every night, and I have to get them to their doctor's appointments, and I have blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, first of all, it is hard to be a thorough homemaker or a thorough anything in life when you're trying to do all of these things, which is why I want to shout from the rooftops, like, every woman should quit their full-time job if they're married and they have some sort of enough of a stable life, and of an income that they can rely on. And what I softly am starting to preach that, because I genuinely feel like that is the most fulfilled that a woman will ever be. But that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
Because I could talk about that forever. But
Me
the
too,
point is, yeah. But the point is that a lot of women feel victim to this crazy busy lifestyle because they feel like they have to do it all. And they don't. You don't have to do it all. Everything that is on our schedule, work, school, after school activities, sports, what's on the menu for dinner tonight, like literally all of these things that we do in life, church activities, whatever, are choices. These are things that we have decided to choose to do with our time. And the biggest issue that I think women have is we act like we're victims to our schedule rather than the creator of our schedule. And nothing shifted my mindset with this as much as when our daughter was stillborn and life stopped. Everything got wiped off of the calendar. And that was my wake-up call in life. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have complete control over my calendar and my time and my, schedule way more than I ever thought I did. And so once my husband and I could breathe again after that, devastation, it wasn't just like, okay, we're going to go back to just doing everything that we did. It was like, no, how can I carefully craft this new life schedule, however you want to look at it, in a way that is really fulfilling what I want to be doing with my time in life, because I don't have to say yes to everything. I don't have to have everything on the calendar and do it all. Like, it was this big wake up call for me, and it was the biggest shift of my life. And it's one of the only good things that I was able to, pull out of what we had gone through. But that's why I started what I started, especially this podcast, Beyond the Pain, like how I took this, and I'm sure for you, it was, the divorce. And I know that you've had, sicknesses in the past that you've dealt with and things like that. It's things like that in life where we're forced to like reevaluate, that I want to show women, like, don't wait until life forces you to reevaluate those things. You have the opportunity to make these choices now and not be a victim to this constantly sick, constantly overwhelmed, constantly anxious, constantly dysregulated, and all of these things. It's like, we can make a choice now to make this different, to make our lives different. And a huge part of this is, like, for me, one of the biggest things, you use the word sacrifice. I sacrifice a full-time income right now.
Yeah.
That is the sacrifice my husband and I have decided that it is worth
it
not having, because the health mentally, emotionally, and physically of everybody in my home is better now than it's ever been, because I'm here treating it like my full-time job, you know? And that's why taking on this sacred role as a homemaker, like you said, no matter what you're doing, you are the homemaker. Like, whether you are embracing it or not, you're still the homemaker. And so for me, it wasn't until I realized how much healing power there is in embracing that role that I felt so alive and like fulfilled. And I was like, I'm not just muscling through life, and I'm not just muscling through laundry and all of these things that women get overwhelmed with. And it wasn't until I was able to really harness and embrace that role that I found like real true beauty like within my life, and was able to be grateful for the small things and find joy in the little things, and not just chase the big things and the highs in life and the new iPhone and the next vacation and all of these things that people are chasing like one thing after another. And it's really, it's life-giving and it's life-changing. And so that's my rant.
No, I love that. I'm curious, when you wake up first thing in the morning, like, what are your first thoughts about your day and what's coming?
So currently, while I'm pregnant and it's like, how do I get out of bed? Like, physically, which way do I have to roll, to get out of bed? But no, so I would say my first thoughts are, well, I would back up and say I almost always have a plan for my next day.
Okay.
The day before. So I never wake up without knowing what I'm doing that day. And I think you've talked about that quite a bit on your platform as well. Like, that is one of the keys to I'll call it success of running I'll call it a well-oiled machine at home. That is one of the ways that I keep myself not feeling chaotic all the time, is I never go to bed without knowing. And I'm not saying like, it's not always at 7:15 I'm doing this and at 8:45 I'm doing, sometimes it is, but it's not always that. There's always some sort of, I always know what's for dinner the next day. Well, I always know what's for dinner for the whole week.
Yeah.
I always know when I have to grab the kids and what their schedule for the evening is, which means I know when I have to cook dinner, who's taking it on the road and who's, eating at home, and all of these things, what time my husband's coming home from work, and all of these things. So my first thoughts are calm. Like, I never wake up feeling frazzled because I always have some sort of a plan, like, going into it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's different for each season that I'm in. For a while there before I got pregnant, it was at 5:30 on the dot. I was up, I was reading, and, with my tea and all of those things. I still wake up. I still like a little bit of a slower morning. So I sit and drink my tea while the kids are getting ready for school and all that. But, now I'm up at like 6:15 It's not quite 5:30 because I'm like, I
That's
could use a couple
okay.
extra
Right.
minutes of sleep. But that's another thing that I've allowed myself to do is roll with the seasons of
Yeah.
life. And not, I was just posting about this yesterday. I think we try to like, when we do try to lock in a routine or a system or something, I know what I struggled with pre all of this like loss and grief, and is I tried like locking into something, and then I thought if I didn't do exactly that
Yeah.
all the time, it was like I failed. And it's like
Right.
we can lock in. So this is my new advice for women is lock into a routine and a system, but not for life, just for the season that you're in.
Right. Be fluid
And
with it. Yes.
be
Yes.
fluid. That's because you can't expect, because that's where the frustration comes in. That's
Mhm.
where, oh, I can't, blah, blah, blah. It's like if you're trying to force a schedule, if you're trying to force a school schedule in a summer
Yeah.
uh time, like it's not going to work. If your kids are home, what you did during the school year is not going to work during the summertime. And it's the same in anything else in life. If what I was doing when I wasn't pregnant, if I'm trying to force all those things now, that it's like obviously everybody would look at me and go, "You're crazy. You're pregnant now. You're almost in your third trimester. Why are you still trying to do things like when you weren't pregnant?" So it's allowing myself to be fluid with the schedule, um and to but always have some sort of a plan like for this
Mhm.
next day, and that's how I keep myself not chaotic when I wake up.
Yeah. And I love that. I think if people can leave this podcast with one practical thing to do, if they aren't already, is exactly that. Look at your following day, the evening
Mm-hmm.
before, and kind of map out what is coming down the pike. And yes, make sure you know what's for dinner, right? All of these little things so that when
Mm-hmm.
you wake up in the morning, yeah, you're waking up with that peace. There isn't chaos because you've already looked, right? You wouldn't go to a paid job, right? And just wing it. Okay? So
Right.
when you look at your role in the home, in that kind of light, yeah, winging it doesn't work, right? And so everybody suffers with that. And so one of the things that you touched on, which I will share, um, about like kids' activities. I feel like, so my kids' age ranges from 32 now to my youngest is 15 and a half. But I will say, man, I think it was so much easier to parent kids like 10 to 15 years ago, because even then I feel like sports, it wasn't as like high level, and like if you want to play a sport, man, you gotta be 110%, and it's a year-long thing, and all of this stuff that I feel has transpired. But when we had three teens at home, we put a stipulation in our home that each of our kids got to choose two sports or two activities a year, and we couldn't. Oh, whoops! I don't know what those
Oh,
balloons are.
who knows?
I won't hold up any fingers.
Who
But
knows?
they got to choose two activities for the year, because usually at that point they were kind of broken into quarters. So it was kind of
Yeah.
how our sports, nobody was in a year-long sports kind of program or anything. But and that worked for our family, because we couldn't, with three kids, we could not be at three different places at the same time. And that was a decision that we made for our family, because I didn't want to be running around and never home in the evening for, dinner, and just feeling so chaotic. And so I just want to give, like you have given a lot of permission, right, for women to not play victim and figure out what that looks like to create their schedule. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't allow my kid to do X or Y, then they're not going to be successful, or I have failed them. That is not true. So you get to control how you respond to, different situations that present themselves, and you get to help your kids then prioritize as well, right? And make the best decision for your family and for, what is good for your child too. So, yeah, the activity
Yeah.
thing is huge.
Yes, and going off of that, it's easy for, well, maybe not easy, but us as parents, especially if we have school age kids, let's say late elementary, middle school, definitely high school. We have, sometimes we deal with that guilt of like, well, I don't want them to miss out and I want them to be able to do all these things. So we decide that we're going to take on the responsibility and run ourselves ragged just to make it work for them. And what I want to offer as maybe just a different perspective is we make rules for our kids in so many other areas of life because we know it's what's best for them. And they might not like it, and they might have to miss out on certain things because of the rules that we make. Like, no, you're not going to that house party where there's alcohol and you're underage. And no, you're not eating 4 pounds of dessert when you didn't have 2 bites of food. We make all these decisions and we have all these rules that in our heads are like no brainers for the health and safety of our children. But then when it comes time to all these extra, curricular activities, sports and all these things, it's very easy for us to say like, well, I don't want them to miss out. So go ahead and I'll just run myself ragged. And we lose mom's sanity. We lose family bonding. Mm-hmm. Whether it's around the dinner table or wherever it is, we lose so many valuable things in life that we don't realize that they're actually missing out on really important stuff rather than, I would much rather my kid miss out on a sport that they're probably not going to play once they pass high school. And so for the parents that are like, but my kid's going to be a star athlete, that might be true. But the percentage of those kids is so small compared to how many kids play sports and whatever these extracurricular activities are. I'm using sports because that's like the most popular, but whether it's drama or whatever it is. My point is we're so quick to say no to a lot of things that look obvious, like cake for dinner or underage drinking. Like these are just two things that are popping into my head. We're so quick to say no, and we don't care if they're missing out on those things because it's like, we're very aware of the damage that can be done to them in the future if we decide to let them do those things. But what we're not aware of is if we let them do all of these extra things, we're giving up. What we don't see is the damage that is being done to whatever kind of family unit that we're trying to cultivate, if that's our goal in life. If we want to have a relationship with our kids one day, and I'm not saying if you let your kids do sports, you're not going to have a relationship with them. That's not what I'm saying. Our kids do sports, but like you said, there are parameters. Yes, you can do these things, but no, you can't do everything. Because if I never see you around at dinner, if I say good morning to you and you're off and the only time I see you is saying goodnight, like, no, that's not the kind of relationship I'm looking to build with my children. And so not only does that alleviate me having to run around like a crazy person and playing taxi all day, every day, it also sets them up for a better future because we're going to have a better relationship. I can help guide them better in life. They're going to build trust with me. And when it's time to release them into the world, I'm going to feel more confident in that because I actually have a relationship with my kids and I actually have been able to instill in them, principles and of, culture of family bonding and they're not just going to be like, peace out, never want to see you again, and just leave. And that's a personal goal of mine. Those are personal things that I'm striving towards. But I would imagine a lot of moms want those similar things for their kids. And so that's a little bit of a rant, but it all comes back down to what we're doing with our time and the fact that we do have choices. We have these choices. We are not forced to let our kids do everything they want to do just because we don't want them to miss out. It's like, so I digress with that, but
one of the things too, like if people are messaging me or inside of my community, somebody will ask, you hear this saying all the time, like when every time we say yes, we're saying no to something. Mm-hmm. So if you really think about that in the forefront of your daily activities, and when you say yes to volunteering to, take somebody a meal or to do this thing at the school or to say yes to your son playing baseball or whatever, what are you going to be saying no to? Because you will be saying no. It could be maybe just small things, but that I think for me personally has really, shifted my perspective on, am I really willing to give up, right? Family time in the evening or getting to bed. For me, sleep is critical. Like I need
Yes.
to be in bed no later than 9 o'clock. Am I willing to give that up? And, so that my, child can do whatever that may in fact get him home later, and sometimes there is a yes, because that, experience may be more valuable and I want
Yes.
them to have that. But it's always good to be thinking about that. Whenever I say yes, what am I going to be saying no to? Because there's always the other side.
Yeah, and we can't blame the kids these days, I'll say this generation of kids, because we live in this world of just like overconsumption and overdoing, and everything has to just be going and going and going, and nobody knows how to stop in this generation that we're raising, to stop, take a breath, and say, we don't need that new thing. Like, I know that for one of the things with my kids is that I struggle with the most is they want, and I'm like, but do you need that? Like, just take a step. What do we need? You know, I live a little bit more of a minimalistic life. We don't have a lot of clutter. When things come in, things go out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we get gifts, well, actually, before we get gifts,
Yeah.
we clear out to make room for the gifts. Like, that's the kind of life that's how I run my household. So for the kids, I do feel bad for them, because when they walk outside of the house, that's not what's being taught to them out there. It's, you need this new thing. You need these new headphones. You need this new phone, and you need to do your hair like this and wear these clothes and all these things. So I do feel bad, because they're in a tough spot in life where their parents are saying one thing and the world is saying something totally different, and they're conflicted because of course they want to fit in, of course they want to be cool and have whatever, but it's so much worse than it's ever been. Like, I remember growing up, we weren't like dirt poor or anything, but we didn't have like a lot of money. Yeah. And I never cared that I wasn't wearing like the hottest new clothes or like logo, with the logos on it. Everybody had to have like, what it was, Abercrombie and Fitch or whatever it was. Like, I remember we always had new clothes. It's not like my clothes had holes in them and things like that. We were always taken care of. My parents did the best with the little that they had to take care of us. But I never remember feeling that pressure that I needed to have new things and needed to just be a consumer of everything that was out there. And so I do feel bad for this generation, because there is that constant pressure and that constant back and forth between what the world is telling them and then what their parents are desperately trying to do and to teach them. But it's not easy. Like, we are, it's an uphill battle every single day, and I think to instill these values.
Kind of like the underlying theme that, you have expressed, and that what we've kind of talked about, right, is this time that you have in the home with your children and your spouse, partner. It is pivotal. This is the core part where you actually have influence over your children, right? By having some of these kind of conversations. And I'm not saying you don't have them, right? You do.
Right.
But this is why we can kind of bring everybody back together and talk about some of these things, right? If you aren't talking about the pressure that kids feel, or, why you don't get to have Facebook at age 13, or, all of these things that, we parents make the best decision that we can at the time for what we feel is going to be the best, right, for our kids. That, to me, if you are running yourself ragged and you're never home to experience home, there's kind of the problem, right? I mean, I remember years ago, that was kind of a mantra that I had, and maybe I need to pick it back up again, but it was like, we want to create these homes, right? But buying little stuff from Target or Home Goods and making it all look cute and whatever, it's not going to matter if you're only home for 2 hours in the evening, to get everybody in bed. Like, that's not what home is. And so, it's kind of what you said, all about, what do I want to cultivate here? What are my priorities? And that was one of the things that I felt like needed addressed first thing when, I started a membership community back in April. And I think people thought, oh, we're going to come in and Susan's just going to teach us even better how to clean the sink or the toilet or whatever. And the first thing that was the topic of the month, was really understanding your role as a homemaker and owning that, and why it's so critical, because that just kind of, flows out of everything that we do. And so, anyway, I just feel like, man, if women could really see, like you said, the ability that we have to really control our schedule and to say yes to the things that really matter, and don't feel like, oh, if we don't, then there's that shame and that guilt, we need to push that aside. That's just not going to benefit anybody. But when you have sat and really decided what are your priorities for your family, it makes it much easier, right, to make those decisions. And you have done that, which is so great, right? You have had, unfortunately, a massive tragedy that really shook you, and really then kind of made a little pivot, right? And really awakened to what you really wanted to see happen in your life, right? And not all of us will have those kind of situations, thank goodness. But I'm so grateful that you were able to look at that situation and just say, like, okay, there was something good that came from that, because look, my life looks totally different. And I don't know that I would have came to the same place had we not had to walk through that. Right.
Right. And to that point, I always wondered, because like my goal and my mission is to teach women in particular to start to make these well, I should say, let me clarify, women who feel overwhelmed, who feel unfulfilled, who feel chaotic and, anxious and on a daily basis, those women, to show them that, like, don't wait for a tragedy. Like, don't wait for life to force you in order to do this. Like, and I don't know if that's possible, because I think it is. I like to hold on to hope that it is, possible to show women that they don't have to be victims of their schedules and their lives, that they can take hold of it now. Because for me, it was like, that loss was the fire under my butt. Like, that's the only thing that got me to that point. It wasn't an Instagram account. It wasn't a checklist or anything like that. I'm not saying those things aren't helpful.
Right.
They are tools. That's why it's a hard message to get across when you haven't experienced the experience that I've had, or that, other women who have, dealt with these things. But I love what you said before that about how, we spend all this time, picking out, decor and all these little things, and we go to Target and we're, buying new things, and you said that's not home. And I love that. Like, I think that's what I've been trying to say to women, like, for years now. And it's like, I never really figured out how to say it. And you just said it. It's like, that's not home. Like, and it's funny that you say that, because just the other day I was standing in my living room, and I remember having this thought of feeling like, okay, when we decide, like, we want to, okay, hang on, let me back up, because I gotta tell the backstory. The kids were talking about how they wanted to go on another vacation. We had just gone on a vacation a couple months ago, and then it morphed into, well, when this baby comes, what happens if you have another baby? We're going to have to move, and all of these things. Like, it rambled from vacations to moving and all of these things. And so after that conversation was over, I was standing in my living room, and I realized I don't have that itch to always go on vacation, and I have to move, even with this baby on the way, and hopefully wanting another baby after this one. Like, I don't feel in my gut like, oh my God, we have to move. Like, we're running out of space. We have a 4-bedroom apartment house. In January, we'll have 4 kids, me and my husband. And it's a 1,700 square foot home. It's not huge, but it's not teeny. And I just remember for the first time realizing, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm totally content with my home. And I have felt those feelings of contentment. But for the first time, I was like, I don't feel like I need a vacation. I don't need a bigger house. I don't need, and I was just starting to realize, like, oh my gosh, like, I was just so content in that moment. And I was like, realizing that all of these things we do, whether it's I need a vacation from this chaotic life and all of these things, I realize that my vacation or my rejuvenation or my breath of fresh air is my home. And
Yeah.
it's not because it's filled with hundreds and hundreds of dollars of new things from Home Goods and Hobby Lobby and Target. Like, I rarely go shopping for these things. That is not what gives me my sense of rejuvenation and security and peace. It's not that. It's the culture that I have created within my home. And so I just thought it was very interesting that it kind of dawned on me that, like, that was the reason why I don't feel like this need and this itch to, like, panic about we're having another baby, we have to move, all of these things. And so because I have created this environment in my home that I love so much, I almost never feel like I need a break from it. And that is a huge thing in life that I feel like if women could just harness that. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying there aren't days where I'm like, I got to get out because the kids are driving me nuts.
No,
Everybody has those
but
days.
that
It's not
sense
about
of
that.
contentment, that
Yeah.
is huge, right? Knowing what you have and appreciating what you have, right? And not feeling like, okay, what's the next thing? We have to
Yeah.
just keep doing, or, moving or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
when you were just sharing, I'm like, whatever happened? Like when I grew up, and yes, I'm dating myself because I'm 58, but like, it was not uncommon for kids to share bedrooms. Now I feel like that is like, everybody's like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
Like the sizes of our homes have gotten bigger, 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 right? And really the sizes of families have gotten smaller compared to, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I almost feel like, ooh, it's kind of a problem, because when your family's all separated in all different areas, there's something that is lost there too. And I'm an introvert and I like my privacy at times, so don't get me wrong. But I love that you have that contentment, and it definitely, it comes out when you're talking about it. It's not just like, oh, a la la la. It really is that contentment, and I love that.
And the point of everything that we are talking about here today is that, whatever we're trying to, because I feel like, again, women in particular are just always trying to, they're holding on. They're, how can I get through this day? How can I get through this age? How can I get through this dinner? Like, whatever we just want to, like, get through it. And I guess just to kind of, and, put everything into a summary of what we talked about is there is so much change that can happen in our life to relieve the anxiety and the overwhelm and the chaos of life as a homemaker and as a mom when we start within our home. When we start within the four walls of our home, because we have more control over what is happening within our home than we do outside of our home. And it will, I guarantee you, Susan guarantees you that it will bleed into all other areas of your life. We promise you it will. And that's a guarantee. And so all of these things that we've talked about today, it all goes back to that. If whatever kind of healing or restoration or, regulation that we're looking for in our lives can truly all come back to and start with how we are, thriving in our homes, not just surviving.
Right.
And so I want to give you an opportunity before we kind of close out where, we're hitting that 1 hour mark, to just share with people any resource that you want to put out there. Your Instagram handle, I know, is a huge one. I know your planner is a huge hit. On Instagram, I see all the times amazing things that women are saying about that. I'll let you brag about it, but anything that you want to put out there, I want to give you an opportunity to share with our listeners, whatever
Sure.
that is.
Well, first, I was just thinking, I'm like, oh, let me address the mom, or homemaker that is listening, and you've heard lots of tidbits, right, today that we've talked about. And you are like, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart. Like all of the things that these ladies talked about, like I want, but I don't know like where to start. Like I have so many, I don't have a morning routine. I don't know what's for dinner. I don't know, blah, 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 fill in the blank. And I just was like, I'm going to give you 3 things to think about. And so you don't get overwhelmed. So overwhelmed is a choice. We can choose to be overwhelmed, or we can choose to not be overwhelmed. And that's something that I have had to change my verbiage on myself as well. So I would say, if you feel like I don't even know where to start with my home, right? Laundry's never done. I don't have a system. I don't really plan my meals. I will say I do have a free checklist. So you can go right to my Instagram bio. My profile is Confident Mom. Sorry, I'm like, hello. And it's the free Start Here checklist, and it's just going to help you kind of find a way to get started. And there's a list of 10 things. I would encourage you just to pick 3. And like we said here, like put those into practice and just celebrate when you do those 3 things consistently. Don't try to do all 10, because habits are going to come one step at a time. Okay. So when you've kind of got those into a habit, add one more, because that is how it builds. You become overwhelmed or anxious and feeling like a failure when we try to bite off more than we can chew. So that would be one thing. If it's a morning routine and you feel like, man, I am not prepared in the morning, right? You take Emily's tip and look at your schedule the night before. It doesn't have to take 30 minutes. It literally can take you 5 to 10 minutes to kind of see what's happening, tomorrow. Can I prep ahead of time, right? Not only for myself, but for my kids, right? To make the morning easier. So that would be the other thing. And then I would just say, give yourself grace. If you are not a journaler like me, I'm not a journaler, but I have started. I would say take some time, 5 minutes, set a little timer if you need to, and pour out all this stuff that is up here, because it's clogging your ability to think clearly, to make decisions that are going to be effective. Oh my gosh, there it goes again. To be effective. It really impacts your mindset. So take that time and dump all of that garbage out of your brain and really clear it. And take it one step further and just kind of either pick a Bible verse or pick an affirmation that speaks to you. My home is a lovely place to be. It could be something just as simple as that. But if you are speaking that over you and your home on a daily basis, guess what's going to happen? You'll find evidence that your home is a lovely place to be, and your actions are going to follow that too. So anyway, so I just wanted to what can we leave people with for some really, really practical things that maybe, won't leave you feeling defeated after, hearing, because Emily's got some great things put into practice, right? And hopefully I have after 58 years too. I mean, but nobody is perfect by any means. So I have that free Start Here checklist that you can grab. I do have my signature product, which is a weekly household planner. And you can actually purchase it right now. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but you can purchase it now till the first part of November for just $5. And you'll be able to just kind of try it out. But the 2026 version will launch mid-November. And it is my signature product. And it has saved the lives of so many women that literally don't want to have to think about what to clean, how often to clean, any of that. So anyway, but you'll find me most on Instagram. And I do send a weekly coffee chat email, which people seem to love. And so I have sent it out for years and years, but it's just a little sneak peek, maybe a little bit more into my personal life that I don't share on Instagram, and just some gentle reminders as well. So so there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will add all of that into the notes of this episode. So if you're listening and you're like, shoot, I didn't write that down, check out the notes and I'll write it all in there. I know that every single time. I don't personally have Susan's planner because cleaning, I come from the professional world of cleaning. So that's something that I've always been able to have a hold of.
Yeah, you don't need it.
But there are so many women I see all the time that Susan is posting about, just raving about this planner. So if there's, and the amazing thing about it is you do a new one every single year based on what that schedule of the year looks like. It's not just like a generic
Right.
planner. It's very specific to that year and those dates and all of those things, which is so nice because you don't have to think about it. It's literally right in front of you. And so if that is something that, you know, keeping up with a specific to cleaning and home maintenance routine is something that you have struggled with, or you're like, I just want to pay somebody to think about it for me, that is like, I have heard so many amazing things. So definitely check that out. But Susan, thank you so much. Like I said before I hit record, I am just so honored that you would reserve some time to come on my show. It's been such a pleasure following you, and you're one of the only accounts that every single time something pops up, I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. Like, no matter what it is, I'm like, I'm here for it and I want to watch it. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time.
Oh, yes, of course. It was a pleasure. I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much again. And thank you for everybody listening. I appreciate you being here and just following along my journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel to hear more episodes just like this one. I can't wait to chat with you all again really soon. Signing off for now, your hope dealer, Emmy Smaz.